Ok, c'est ça.
Hi, welcome to our online discussion of August 21, 2015.
Hi there.
This is Amy Asbrook, the director of Toujours Vivant Not Dead Yet, and I'm Christian Debris.
Welcome to our third season. Yay!
Yeah, I wish you had a very nice holidays. We had a very nice
good vacation.
vacation, sorry. Okay, sorry for my fault in English. My English is my southern language, and I'm not too good. Okay, so Toujours Vivant Not Dead Yet is a project of the Council of Canadians with Disabilities. Our goal is to inform, unify, and give voice to the disability right opposition to assisted suicide, euthanasia, and other end-of-life practices that discriminate against people with disability. That's our goal.
Yeah.
There are many reasons to oppose the legislation of assisted suicide and euthanasia. Here are just a few.
Yeah.
It's unnecessary. Everything you could do already without any law.
Right. We don't need to legalize
additional law. Okay. Everyone has the option to commit suicide or to refuse medical care and have palliative sedation on demand already without any additional law.
Right. Exactly.
It's discriminatory.
Yes.
While people without disability receive suicide prevention services if they express a wish to die, people with disability will be encouraged and assisted suicide assist to kill themselves.
Yes, and that's discriminatory.
We have already seen it a few times.
Yes.
Choice is an illusion, the third reason. The choice to die cannot be free as long as people with disability don't have the choice in where and how to live.
Right, and the people who push assisted suicide say, oh, it's your individual choice, but they don't take into account that people with disabilities are deprived their choices because of discrimination.
Yeah, and it comes because you couldn't have the where and how you live.
Right.
So you have choice between prison and to be killed.
Right. Prison being living in an institution.
Yeah, which is exactly the same. Right. You just have the key to your own cell.
Right.
Okay. Safeguard, the fourth reason. Safeguard don't work. Where these practices are legal, safeguard do not prevent people from disability from being wrongly killed.
Right.
It happened many, many times.
Right, and we keep seeing studies of this. We see, nearly every week, and if you follow our Facebook page, you'll find cases where people with disabilities are killed, either, outside of assisted suicide laws, or that there are exceptions made that enable people with disabilities to be killed. Safeguards don't work.
Yeah. Goal of our online discussion are to give disabled people a place to talk about this issue among ourselves from our point of view.
Right.
To recognize our experience and expertise in dealing with discrimination and medical system.
Right, because most of the discussion that happens doesn't take our experience into account, and our experience is very important, and we have expertise in some of the most important issues that are relevant to this topic, but nobody talks about those. So,
okay, to take our place in public debate aside from conservative and progressive.
Right, because the media act like there's only two groups involved. One is the religious right, and the other is people who are liberal and progressive, except for disabled people are more progressive than even the liberals. So.
Yeah, we are more progressive than all of those groups.
Right, but they don't want to talk about that because that makes them look like a bunch of not very
dumb people.
Yeah.
You choose the normal word for it, which is not really interesting.
Yeah, they don't look deeply into the topic, and so they think they're being progressive, but in fact they're being discriminatory. So.
Yeah, and this is not their goal, but that's what happened.
Right, they don't mean to be, but in fact, because they're only looking at the surface, that's the result.
Yeah. Okay, today's topics, dueling expert panels.
Right.
And the second one is
And
proposed
ding, ding, ding,
regulation
ding, ding,
to implement Quebec's euthanasia law.
Okay.
So you will earn Emiliano.
Okay, dueling expert panels. Ding, 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 ding,
Ding,
ding,
ding, ding,
ding,
ding,
ding.
ding, 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 ding.
On July 17th, the federal government named an expert panel to examine options for a legislative response to the Supreme Court's decision in Carter versus Canada. Ding, 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 ding. The panel includes Dr. Harvey Chochinov, Distinguished Professor of Psychiatry and Palliative Care at the University of Manitoba, who is really one of the, apart from Balfour Mount, he's probably the most.
And the key word is
Right,
palliative
palliative
care.
He is the most recognized person in this field, and this is the field that is most important in end-of-life decision-making, because these are the people who see every day what it means for somebody to come to the end of life and what they really need. And Dr. Chochinov is the person who created the idea of dignity therapy. People are always saying, oh, if I'm disabled, I won't be dignified. I'll lose my dignity. But what he talks about is how to keep your dignity and, you know, a way for people to feel in control at the end of life. So the second person is Catherine Frazee, who is a professor emeritus in disability studies at Ryerson University. The key here is that Catherine not only has a disability, but she also is expert in disability studies. So she understands, not only from her personal experience, but from studying it and thinking about it, what it means to be a person with a disability in our society, how people with disabilities are discriminated against, and how assisted suicide and euthanasia make that discrimination worse. And the last person is Benoit Pelletier, who is a professor of law at the University of Ottawa, and he's an expert in constitutional law.
Yeah, we need somebody who knows the law in the detail.
Right. So these three people, especially Dr. Chochinov and Catherine Frazee, you know, the people who oppose, who are in favor of assisted suicide said, oh, it's a biased panel because those two people oppose assisted suicide. Well, in fact, you know, they both have stated that they're opposed, but they also have the expertise to back up their position. And we'll talk a little bit more about their panel for a second. In that the panel will conduct a consultation with medical experts and interveners in the Carter case to gather opinions and perspectives on the issues raised by the decision to help the government develop a legislative response to the court's decision. So that's their mandate. And the panel will look at different forms of physician-assisted suicide or physician-assisted dying, meaning assisted suicide or euthanasia, eligibility criteria and definition of key terms, risks to individuals and society associated with assisted dying, and that's very important because this is very destructive to society.
Yeah.
And also talk about safeguards to address risks and procedures for assessing requests for assisted dying, and also protecting physicians' freedom of conscience. I think the doctors can protect themselves. They have some pretty strong organizations. But the other two, the safeguards and the procedures to determine who should get assisted suicide, those are really important because in the places where assisted suicide has sort of gotten out of control, part of the reason is because the safeguards are not specific. They're very, very vague. And so anything can happen. The eligibility criteria get bigger. You know, what
some lawyer of the specialty are extending and pulling and stretching.
It doesn't even get to lawyers. It's just, you know, some doctor decides, well, this person's eligible, and then it goes before the commission, and the commission says, oh, fine, no problem. And then you get people who don't you know, who just are tired of life or who have depression that is not treated, who are getting assisted suicide. So, so the safeguards need to be very specific, and these are all things that needs to be dealt with. The only problem is that with the announcement of the federal election, the panel suspended its activities as of August 4th until after the October 19th election. So then on August 14th, the province of Ontario launched a similar committee representing the provinces and territories, except Quebec, with the same mandate as the federal panel. Ding, 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 ding. This is the other dueling panel. Unfortunately, several members of the provincial panel are activists for assisted suicide. And they are Dr. Jennifer Gibson, who is one of the co-chairs of the panel. She's the director of the University of Toronto Joint Center for Bioethics. Now, I haven't seen anything that she has written, but the Joint Center on Bioethics has been run throughout its existence by people who strongly support assisted suicide, including Peter Singer, who, as you may or may not remember, not only supports assisted suicide, but thinks that killing disabled babies is a great idea because they obviously won't have any quality of life. So, you know, you could just wipe me out of this picture because I was a disabled baby. And, you know, he would have said, well, my parents would have had the right to, you know,
kill you.
Yeah, exactly. So
very interesting.
Right.
I will have this a very nice wife.
Yep. Another person who is in favor of assisted suicide on this panel is Maureen Taylor. She's the other co-chair. And she is a physician assistant in infectious diseases, and she's also a medical journalist. But what's important to remember about her is that she is the wife of Donald Lowe, who was a doctor, and he also made a video about wanting assisted suicide that was shown after he died of brain cancer. And so she's been continuing his fight for assisted suicide after he died.
Very, very, very neutral and very critical.
Right, right.
There is a difference between somebody who is critical and somebody who is directly in favor of one option. Right,
and she is basing her feelings on one case, but in fact, you know, he could have committed suicide on his own, but he didn't. So that's kind of
and that's the trouble with assisted suicide. People who ask to die don't ask to die. They just ask to have control over their life and not to suffer. That's the real asking.
Right, but his feeling is he didn't want to have to be carried
to the
bathroom. Well,
it's fear.
Yeah, yeah. Another person is Dr. Jocelyn Downey, who is a professor in the faculties of law and medicine at Dalhousie University. She's probably one of the most dangerous people who supports assisted suicide because she's very articulate and intelligent and has, you know, is very capable of arguing the point. But I don't think her points are good, but she's good at arguing them.
Yeah.
And finally, Arthur Schaefer is the director of the Center for Professional and Applied Ethics at the University of Manitoba. There are a few other people who are on the panel, none of whom have direct experience either with disability or with palliative care. Ms. Taylor's experience is about her husband, one experience. And, you know, so these are people who look at it from a distance. They don't deal with it on an everyday basis. Unlike Catherine Frazee, who deals with her disability on an everyday basis.
It doesn't have a real close view about handicapped people.
Right, exactly. And Dr. Chachanov deals with people who are dying on a daily basis and has formed his opinion based on that experience.
Yeah.
Let's see. So the only panel member who has said that she opposes assisted suicide on this provincial panel is Dr. Noala Kenny. But unfortunately, as she is a Catholic nun, that will probably reduce her credibility because both on the committee and in society, because generally people oppose folks with religious bias. And,
Yeah,
you know,
it's obvious.
yeah,
People are, in average, not religious, and they
Right.
have a tendency to be repelled by religious argument.
right. So, you know, essentially the committee, a lot of people feel that the committee was really set up by the folks with dignity and dying, and that Dr. Kenny was added to supposedly add the other side of the argument, but since she will not be seen as a credible person, it doesn't, you know, her point of view won't matter.
Yeah.
The provincial panel was almost certainly created to try to supplant the federal panel. This is where the dueling part comes in. It will continue its consultation from now until the election and submit a report to Parliament before the Carter ruling comes into effect on February 6th, 2016. Yeah, 2016. If Parliament hasn't received any input when it comes back after the October election, it's possible that the Supreme Court could grant an extension for Parliament to give Parliament time to write a law.
That's really.
But if the provincial panel has provided recommendations, the Supreme Court is less likely to push back the deadline. And that's why this provincial panel is so dangerous.
Yes, so it's why they dueling with the federal.
Right, dueling panels. Although the federal panel is not holding meetings, people can still submit testimony and comments via their website. So visit www.ep.ce.ca/en/home and select the consultation menu item. And the provincial panel has a survey form to fill out, which I found out while I was working on this a few minutes ago. It's a very long website. I put it up on our Facebook page, but I'll read it quickly. It's www.ontario.ca/page/doctor-assisted-dying-and-life-decisions-consultation. It's on our Facebook page. You don't have to remember all that.
Yeah, I wish not.
Yeah, it's on our Facebook page. So go there and you'll find the link and you can go over to their survey. Again, it's a survey, so I didn't get a chance to look at it because I didn't have time while I was working on this. But it probably has a lot of very, you know, closed questions. Do you favor assisted suicide? Oftentimes these surveys ask questions in a way that are very leading, so just be aware of that. And any place you can submit your own writing, that's important. So that is the end of that topic. Do you have anything you want to add?
Not really,
No,
because it's quite clear that those committees are dueling, and the duel is in favor of the Ontario one because he will be submitting some suggestion just in time, and the federal one will not have time to debate and submit there.
Right.
So the court will have something biased.
Well, it's not the court that's going to look at it.
But the government will have something biased
Right.
To look at when they came in power.
Right. The next government.
And the next government will be probably, and it's a personal, it doesn't involve the organization, probably again, the government of the
Conservatives.
Yeah, conservative.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of a difficult situation for us because the Conservatives on this issue are in the same direction as we are, even if their reasons are different. So that's a mixed thing because in most ways I personally disagree with their politics a lot, But on this issue, I agree with the result that they're looking for, not the way that.
Let's say they want the same result, but not for the same reason.
Right. All roads lead to Rome. They're taking a different road.
Yeah.
So, okay. So the next topic is proposed regulations to implement Quebec's euthanasia law. As you probably already know or remember from last year, the law concerning end-of-life care was adopted in Quebec on June 4th, keep going back.
Yeah, you are 100 years apart.
Yeah, I'm just off by 100 years.
You're still in 20th century. We
Yeah.
are in the 21st
century.
And let's say in 100 years, we will be in 22 and a half century, like
okay.
Daffy Duck said
Okay.
a time before.
Let's not go there. On June 4th, 2014, and will come into effect on December of 2015. The law will allow people to choose medical aid in dying, in other words, euthanasia, among the options for care at the end of life. So in this case, killing is supposed to be a kind of medical care. If you believe that.
Which is very, very
And if you
nasty.
believe that, I have some beachfront land in Arizona to sell you.
Yeah.
The government of Quebec published its first set of regulations to implement the euthanasia program on July 15th. Now, keep in mind that generally when regulations are published, there's supposed to be 45 days for people to submit comments. And then the agency is supposed to take those comments and make changes to the proposed regulations and then republish them before the government agencies that are supposed to put them into effect have to deal with them. But this doesn't give them much time to do it.
No, and they publish it in the middle of summer when everybody is away, yeah. And very interesting in the politics and law, yeah.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have any time.
Right, exactly. So these regulations relate to the information that doctors have to provide to the oversight commission that's going to be formed, and the activities of the commission itself in investigating or in following up on the reports that the doctors submit. So if you think of a law as stating what has to be done, so do this, then the regulations state how it has to be done. This is how you do it. Unfortunately, the regulations don't give enough detail. They cause more confusion, and they don't fill in the gaps that exist in the law itself. So they're not going to help
there
the
is
law.
many gaps.
Right. The overall impression of the law and the regulations is that they'll create a program that's badly designed with problems and legal loopholes that won't protect vulnerable people.
But everything will go well,
Right,
be
but
sure.
we won't have any problems. There won't be any abuse. Nobody will get hurt. The regulations require doctors to provide information about screening and evaluations for eligibility, but there's no explanation of how
you will
the evaluations will be done, nor how the eligibility will be determined.
So anything goes.
Right. So, for example, the doctor has to decide and has to send information about, is the person capable of giving free and informed consent? Well, how is he going to do that? How's he going to make that decision?
Are you able?
Yeah, sure, I can do that.
So that could be as simple as that.
Right.
So everybody will be able.
Right. So, but to say that you're able to do something doesn't necessarily, you could ask me, could I play Bach concerto? I could say, sure, no problem.
But I don't think.
And I could go get out my CD player and play the CD player. That's not quite the same.
That's the difference of how you do that.
Right, exactly. That's an important point. Another important example of this is the request for medical aid in dying the result of external pressure? Are you being pressured externally?
No. But you know, you lose your wife, your child abandon you, you will lose your house,
Right.
you will be moved, you just moved to
A nursing
home, a thing like that. But you doesn't have any outside pressure.
Right, right.
Okay.
The aides at the nursing home are beating you up and mistreating you. You're not getting.
This is not external pressure.
Yeah, that's not. This is the kind of problem, and doctors are not trained to figure this stuff out. You know, especially if the person is afraid of the staff at the place where they live, they're not going to say.
And there is many different kind of doctor.
Right, exactly.
Okay? If you are a proctologist,
right.
you doesn't know anything
right.
about
right.
end of life. But you have the right to kill somebody.
Right, exactly. The regulations don't explain how a doctor would make a referral if he or she doesn't want to actually kill a person, nor what to do if the person isn't eligible for euthanasia.
Oops, I missed my thing.
Right.
I just doesn't send any report, so nothing happened.
Right. Or, you know, person comes in, this person obviously is not capable of giving informed consent. The person is being pressured externally, but there's no way, you know, other than saying, well, you're not eligible to the person, but there's no way of
You just shop for another doctor.
Right. The person
That's
walks
it.
out of your office and goes to another place. There's no record of that.
If you search enough, you will always find somebody who will
Right.
say, yes, yes, you doesn't have any
Right.
outside pressure.
Right, exactly. So there's no procedure for the doctor to follow. There's no record of the person having made an attempt before. It's just not, not good. There is still no explanation of how euthanasia is to be carried out. Are doctors going to put pillows over people's faces?
A gun will be acceptable.
Yeah, guns are very fast.
You know, a pillow over the face, very, very cheap.
Very
Any
cheap.
hospital have a
Lots
lot of pillows, don't cost anything.
Right. It's, you know, people act like, well, it's obvious, of course, but, you know, okay, so an injection, what drugs? What happens if the person is still conscious, but they can't breathe? And they still can feel what's going on. You know, there's just no explanation
How much
about
time
this.
it will take
Right,
to
exactly.
die.
Yeah.
Somebody will react badly.
Right.
You know, in Second World War, a very very famous doctor inject directly in the heart camphor, in the shooting in the heart directly camphor, and few people survive to up to 3 or 4 shots in the heart directly. Some people doesn't react properly to certain drugs.
Right, exactly. And there's no explanation about what the doctor should do if there's a problem. You know, this is not little stuff. Okay, the safeguard of oversight by the commission is retroactive. It happens after. So that doesn't help the person who is already dead. You know, there's a problem. Oops, too late. Sorry.
Yeah, too late. You're dead.
Right.
Who's will defend yourself?
Right, right.
Okay, even the family will say, "Oh, poor guy, he suffered less.
Right.
It was fast.
It's all over. You know, he's in a better place now."
Yeah. That's the normal reaction from a family.
Yeah.
Which doesn't help the people who die.
Right. What if the person was, you know, depressed for a day or two and then the next day, but, you know, in those 14 days, and in fact, there's nothing in the regulations that says the doctor has to make sure that the requests are throughout the 14-day waiting period. There's nothing about 14 days waiting period.
Nothing at all.
So, okay. The doctor has to report the reason why the suffering cannot be relieved in a manner the person deems tolerable. That's from the regulations. But
what is tolerable?
Right, tolerable. But there's nothing about, but it doesn't have to say what services or treatments, if any, were provided to alleviate the person's suffering. What if the person...
If you're mistreated.
Right. what if the person got, you know, they tried 1 or 2 pain medications and they didn't work. So, oh, well, too bad. Sorry, we can't help you.
Too much.
You know, or the person, they tried 1 pain medication. It didn't help very much, but, you know, the person didn't really complain because, you know, the person said, I'm just suffering, I'm suffering. And, or the person was depressed and nobody tried antidepressants or therapy. It's just.
So you will be killed. And,
right.
And sometimes, I agree that it's not for everybody, but sometimes those people could live 5 or 10 years, okay?
Right.
And you will kill them.
Right, and that's another thing that there's, you know, the doctor is supposed to report the, what is it called, a terminal prognosis. So the estimate how long the person's going to live, but it doesn't say what is the end of life.
No.
So,
you know, as soon as
5
you've
years.
been born, you're starting to be at the end of your life.
Right, you're on your way to dying.
Yeah, that's the life.
Right, right. Okay, the commission also has no responsibility to verify that medical killing and euthanasia are not happening outside of those that are counted in the doctor's report. So the doctors turn in their reports and the commission doesn't have any responsibility other than looking at the doctor's reports.
And if the doctor doesn't sign the report,
right,
nothing happens.
Nothing happens, you know. So what if a doctor says, oh, Jesus, I forgot to do this 1 step. Oh, rats. I forgot to figure out if the person got any help with their suffering.
It's 1 paper too much to do, so
you know,
I just don't send it.
You know, oh, geez, I made a mistake. I'm not going to send this in. Nobody will know. Nobody will know. Or, you know, maybe the doctor said, well, you know, nurse calls the doctor in the middle of the night. This person's really in trouble. We finished the forms, didn't we? Oh, sure, yeah. Just go ahead and
give them the shot then.
Right. Oh, well, we can't really send in that report because, you know, we did it. Or
that's not supposed to be the nurse who do that.
Right.
Oh, gosh.
Gee, we didn't know. Sorry. Well, we just won't send that in.
That's it.
Yeah.
And nothing happened.
It's not that they mean to do something bad, but
you know, that's
happen.
exactly the case in Belgium. A lot of doctors doesn't sign the report.
Or they don't know if there's what they're doing is euthanasia, what they're doing is within the law. So
but we are better than Belgium. You know, Canadians are a lot better than Belgium. Oh, yeah. We are a lot better.
Right. Okay, so I've just given you a whole bunch of things, and there's a lot more that I found with the regulations. So watch our Facebook page for a report detailing the problems with the regulations, as well as the address to send your comments, because it's really important that as many people speak up about this as possible.
And 1 comment about ourselves. You may think sometimes that we are a bit, let's say,
making fun of, or
no, we exaggerate. No. Over thousands of cases will happen a year, many thousands. Even if there is less than 1% who go wrong,
right,
it's too much.
Right.
We do it for the death penalty.
Right.
We was afraid to kill 1 people too much who was not guilty, and we suppressed the death penalty. But for old people and disabled people, we will just blank our eyes and say, nothing will happen. I don't believe it.
Right, right. And, you know, just follow our Facebook page. There's always articles that come out about people who are not eligible under their country's laws who are being killed. So there you go. Any other comments?
Not really.
Okay.
I'm not happy about
it. Not me neither.
If I have real comment, I could not tell it on TV.
Not nice words.
No. Please don't let me say it.
Okay, so how to get in touch with us. To watch our videos, you can search for Euthanasia and Disability, either through Google Hangouts on Air or on YouTube. And we now have almost 2 years, but we now have 2 years worth of videos. September 13th was the first video we did, September 13th, 2013, I guess. So we now have 2 years worth of videos. We have hours and hours of fun-filled information. So you can search our videos and look at what we've got. Also, if you want to participate live, you can send me your email address and I'll send you a link that will, just before we start, that will enable you to join us live. And you can find that link on our Facebook page every week and on my Twitter feed. Also, for more information on the subjects that we talk about here, you can go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/toujourdsvivant-not-dead-yet. Go to our website at tvndy.ca. You can email me at info@tv-ndy.ca, or go to Twitter @TVNDY. Thanks very much for being with us, and thanks to Christian for helping out.
Thank you, Amy.
All right.
And I wish to see you next week.
Next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.